Okay, so today we are doing testing and implementation. Okay, so if you remember when we were in the last class, we spoke about prototyping, and we were saying how prototypes are made. But you see, after you have created a prototype, then you take the prototype for testing. And this last part, it's not a long process. Actually, the prototyping is rapid, and then the testing comes in two phases. So you take your product or your service to be tested by the community or the person who you want to have impact. You want this product or service to have impact on. So you take the product or the service to them. And you're going to see through this session that the testing and the implementation phase, it takes place in two phases. The first time you will take the prototype, people will give you comments. You will come and fix your product or service based on the comments that they have given you. Then you take it back, and then you let them engage with the product or service for a second time. Once they engage with the product or service for the second time, you listen to their feedback. When you listen to their feedback, you're able to see the changes that they want to be made. You come back and make the final changes, and then now the next service or product that you will come up with after that will be the final one. Now this is the final product or service that you're going to give to the community based on the changes that they told you to make. Now whatever you come up with the second time after you've had their feedback, that's now your final product or service. Okay, and that's what I'll give you the example of what we talked about the other class when I was telling you about the vending machine that ThinkPlace created, and Sarah was in that class, the first prototyping class. We told you that before the vending machine was done, I remember telling you guys that machine came as a result of a carton box. Okay, as a result of a carton box. So they did not just create a vending machine. They first took a carton box. They went with the carton box to the community. They asked the community, if we were to make a vending machine, how would you guys want it to look like? And remember, even as they were making, they were trying to come up with the vending machine, they were not using their own ideas. They were going directly to the community that was going to use the machine, and they were asking for the ideas from the community. So the carton box had many cutouts, how people were saying, this is how big we would want it. This is where we want the sugar to come out from. This is where we want the porridge to come out from. This is how we want the whole vending machine to be designed. So when they came up with the cuttings from the carton box, then they had an industrial person come in and make a second prototype. Now, the second prototype that they made was based on the feedback they had gotten from the community. So this person comes in from the industry. he makes one, but it's not fully operational. It was just one that was made for the community to go again, to look at, to assess, and to say, oh, we said this is where we want the sugar to come out from. Now that we are seeing one, and now that it's coming to life, we don't think the sugar should come out from this part. We don't think that it should only have one place where porridge is coming out from. We feel that it should have two pods instead of one pod where porridge was supposed to come out from. So with a prototype, the more you make it a reality, the more the people who are meant to engage with it, they are able to see how it will be in real life, and they are able to tell you whether it will work or not. Okay? So prototyping process is normally a very rapid process, meaning it works, it's a very fast process. We don't take too much time. And as designers, you need to remember that the first prototype, it's a very fast process. You're sitting down with the people who you're engaging with, and you're asking them, what do you guys think will work best for you? And the ideas that they shoot up, you use them to make that prototype or service. And then you try and make the service or the product to come to real life. Okay? And so when they were now making the last vending machine, the actual one, okay, I'll answer your question in a few minutes, Fionn. I've seen your question, I'll answer it. So when they were making the last prototype, they were sure. They saw the first box, and then they saw the second prototype, which was now looking like the real life vending machine. And then the community made changes. And so when they made the last vending machine, remember, a vending machine, it's very costly to make these gadgets. And so the final gadget had to be very accurate, with the accurate specs that the community members wanted, exactly how they felt it would suit them best. So it was made exactly as per what the community members had requested. Because remember, you're not making this for yourself, you're making this for the community. You're making this because it's a long-term solution to a problem that through research you saw was affecting a community, okay? And so when they came up with the last vending machine, it even had the colors that the community wanted, the writings that the community wanted. It was according to the size that the community wanted, and even how it looked at the front, where the porridge was coming out from, was as the community's expectations. And so even when it was where it was going to be placed, that was also chosen by the community members. And so this vending machine was a real big hit. And people would go because it was placed within communities where people were not able to afford to have meals that had the correct nutrients. And so this porridge was a meal that would help community members to be able to survive on day-to-day basis and receive the nutrients that they required. And so it was made at an affordable price. It was around 10 shillings per cup, which was was a bit affordable for a community person to be able to at least afford. And they would buy the porridge to boost the nutrients, not only for the parents, but also for the children who live within the house premises with their parents. So people would be in a situation where they could not afford to buy food, but because they could drink the porridge, they were able to survive on the nutrients. Yes. And so I want to take you through this testing process so that you can further understand what I'm saying. But I wanted to give you that example so you can keep it in mind as we go through this process. Okay. So testing, as you can see, testing comes right after ideation. And it is the process of putting ideas developed to the test and observing, keeping track of their performance, noting what works and what elements need improvement, which is what I've told you according to the vending machine. And why do we test? We test to put ideas and see their viability. The process allows you to collect learning, to prioritize and improve interventions. And I keep telling you guys that when you're testing, you're taking your product or your service to the community. Now, I want to give you an example of a service because I've given you an example of a product that was made, right? So how about an example of a service? So a service, an example that comes to mind for me is what I told you guys earlier about a project we did among youth, where we were trying to assist the youth to be able to want to go to for family planning services. So most of the young girls within communities, those who have partners, were a bit reluctant to go for family planning services because the male partners were not seeing it as a viable thing. They were not seeing the importance of family planning services. Most people, even up to now, you will find that they believe in traditional methods of doing things, right? Traditional means we don't have to use family planning. We can count our days and I'll still not get pregnant. Or as we are having sex with my partner, he will withdraw and I'll still not get pregnant. Or we'll count beads and the beads will tell my partner when it's safe for us to engage in sexual intercourse and I will not get pregnant. But these methods do not always coincide. They're not always like proper. You can't always rely on them. And when we were on the ground inquiring, most women would say, my husband does not support this. And so I'm not going. My partner does not support this. And so I don't use family planning services. And when you ask men why they don't use family planning why they don't support their partners, or why they don't go to clinics, they'll say for a man, they feel like, why should I go for medical checkups? I mean, I'm a man. Why am I going to hospital? They believe that even when they are sick, that it is something that will just pass gradually. With time, I'll just take herbs and it will pass. And when it comes to family planning, they'll say, it's not upon me. This is a woman's thing. You know, even when you look at services such as antenatal care, postnatal care, men do not accompany women most of the time because they feel like it's a job for a woman. And so for us to be able to assist a man to know the medical importance, we asked, if you were to go to this clinic for these services, what kind of tests would you want to have on you? What wouldn't you want to be done on you, so that you can encourage the woman to want to get this family planning contraceptives placed on her, so that she can control the number of children she has, or so that she can be able to plan for her family, so that she just doesn't have children at the wrong time, or she just does not have children without properly arranging her family. And so the men said, if I'm to go for a service, or if I want to go to a clinic, I do not want to get a HIV test done on me, but I would like to get a blood sugar test done. I would like to know about my pressure. I would want to know my weight, and I would want to know my height. And so we went and worked with the facilities to ensure that they were going to give out these services, so that it would entice the man to want to come to the clinic. And when the man comes to the clinic, the woman accompanies them, or the man accompanies the woman. And during the session, after he has been weighed, after he has had the pressure, after he has known his height and weight, then a family planning person comes on board, tells them about the various contraceptives, what effects they have, and they both get to pick which contraceptive they feel will be best for them. So we kind of tailor-made these services. Remember, this service did not exist. And so the first time the male went to the clinic, the first prototype, they were entering using the same entrance as the women. And then the community members, the men within the community, again commented that we need you to change something. We are not comfortable using the same entrances as the women within the clinics. We need you to assist us to get another entrance, so that other men who are maybe within the community do not start talking badly about us, who have gotten the courage to come to the clinic with our wives. And so we had to listen. And upon listening, we were able to see how we could get a tent that would accommodate men. And so when a man would be seen entering the clinic, other men thought that they were just going to get height, weight, blood sugar checkups, and then they would come out. It would incite men to want to come for that checkup. Then once the man gets to the tent is when they find out, oh, there's also family planning services. And once the man finds out that there's family planning services, they get to hear about it, why it is important for them to accompany their wives, and then they would help their wives pick the proper contraceptive that they can use in order to help them plan for their families. So I wanted to give you an example of a service as well as a product. And so testing is important because you keep having the chance to make changes before you come up with a final product or service. So for the product, the vending machine was the final product, the one that was now electronic, and the one that had all all the feedback that we had gotten from the carton box. Remember, now for the family planning service, the final output was the tent that got to be pitched outside or beside the beside the clinics. And this also picked up very well. But had we not listened to the community, we would have ended up with the wrong product or service if we chose to use our own ideas. But remember, if you involve your community or the person who is directly going to be impacted by your project, it gets easier, it gives you less time, and it saves you a lot of money. So this is a diagram of the HCD process, only that it has different wordings. But as per what I've always been telling you, it's still research, then you get your insights, and then you ideate, and then you prototype, and then you plan and implement. And we are at the last two stages now. We are at prototyping and testing. And prototyping and testing and planning and implementation go hand in hand. It's not a very long process in between. I'm sorry. Sorry, I can see Gloria has unmuted, but I can't hear what she's saying very well. Okay, Gloria, please write on the chat box so I can be able to help you. Okay. So we're moving from prototyping to testing to implementation. So like I told you guys, prototyping is rapid. You build your prototypes quickly, share them immediately, and keep on learning, okay? And as I told you, this part of prototyping, even when you see the picture on your left-hand side, it's not a process that's expensive because you're using materials that already exist. You're working with what you have. Remember the carton box. Keep in mind the carton box is something you can easily get. You don't have to start saying we have to purchase, you know. It's something you can easily get. But if you go and make a vending machine, if we made the vending machine immediately, it would have been so costly and the changes would have been drastic. So it would have been a double cost. You see, you can even see on the picture on your left-hand side that they are using papers to draw because they're trying to see what will work, what are these ideas. Now we are putting these ideas to a prototype. How does that look like in real life, you know? So you're using materials that you already have, but it's a very fast process, okay? And so the overall steps are you define. Once you've determined what to prototype, it's time to build. Now, number 2 says build. You can make any number of prototypes. And remember, I've told you about the materials you can use. So you can make using storyboards, role playing. For example, when I was telling you about the family planning services, you can role play between you and the person helping you to carry out the project so that you try and see if we do it this way, will it work? If we do it this other way, will it work? You try and even act it out among yourselves somewhere, okay? If you are a person who is going to be doing maybe counseling for children under the age of 10, you try and maybe it's group counseling for these children you want to try and do. You try and get your friends, sit them inside a room together, and just try and role play. Be the counselor, let your friends be the children. Assess, will this work? If they sit in this way, will it work? If the room is this color, will it work? Try and remember that you're trying to save yourself money and the time, because once you develop a final prototype, you want it to be something you're sure will be viable and will be able to be used for long term, and it won't cost you too much time and money. The goal is to make something tangible that conveys the idea you want to test. No need to make it perfect, just make it look good enough to get the ideas across. Okay? And then test. Now take your prototype out and test it with the people you're designing it for. Put in their hands and ask them what they make of it. Make sure you get feedback. Okay? So, and then it says iterate. Iterate just means after you get the feedback, you come back, you put the feedback that you have been told to the prototype you're making, you make those changes. Iterating is you're making those changes as per what you have been told by the community or the person who this project is going to impact. So here is where you can integrate feedback. Once you've quickly built another prototype, you'll do it over and over again until you get it right, until it is right. You will keep going back to that community. When they give you feedback, you come back and iterate. Iterate is you're incorporating their feedback. You're making those changes that they have asked of you. Okay. So now it says you've learned and built. Now share what you've made with the people you're designing for and see what they think, right? So there's a document that we normally have. Okay, Gloria, I've seen you're having network problems. Sorry for that. So there's a document that we normally have, a prototyping document. I'll share a copy of the one we normally use. And the document it has blank spaces where you're meant to fill in the feedback that is given by the various people. Now, with this document, you can choose to give the people within the community to fill it for you and then give it back to you, or you can choose to sit one-on-one with each person and get the feedback. Or you can choose, instead of doing it one-on-one, to do what are called focus group discussions. So you sit with 6 or 7 members within a community after they have seen your product, and you ask, what are your views? What did you like? What didn't you like? What do you want me to change? And as they are giving you the feedback, you're writing it down because those are the changes you're going to make. Okay? And so that's what this page is telling you about. It says test. Now that you have a prototype, get it in front of people you're designing for, the users. You bring together a group, hold interviews, the way I've told you, run a co-creation session designed to elicit feedback. So you're sitting with these people, they have seen the product, they have seen the service, and now they're just giving you, we don't like it in this color. We are not available to come to the facility at this time. We can't afford porridge that is worth 20 shillings. And you know, as a person who is doing the project, you need to find a way to make this work. Okay? Every feedback you get is important. None of it should you overlook. Like if we overlooked when they told us we can't afford porridge that's 20 shillings, then no one would have been buying our porridge. You know, if we overlooked when the men told us we can't use the same entrance as women, then men would not have gone to get these services. They would not have encouraged women to get this family planning services. So guess what? You lose out when you do not listen to the voice of the user. So it says, capture feedback. Capturing honest feedback is important. Encourage participants to provide honest feedback. And as you can see there, it's saying negative feedback is also encouraged, since the point of the feedback session is to provide constructive feedback. Meaning, if you went to the ground and you got feedback that said, we no longer think we want this vending machine, and you're like, oh my God, this is the idea we had. Like, this is what we got through the ideation process. You cannot overlook that. You go back to the ground, you go back to your ideation process, you sit down and you start ideating other ideas. I remember during the prototyping session, I told you guys one key thing, that the HCD process is not linear, meaning it does not go in a straight line. Remember, I told you, you can be at testing and it takes you back to ideation. And now you see the reason why it can take you back to a step that you had already completed is something like the feedback you capture. You know, when people are giving you ideas, they still have not seen the real product, the real service, the real outcome. But when you're prototyping, the people or the users now see it in real. And when something is real is when you can judge, is when you can be able to say, oh, this is how it really looks like. I don't think this will work. That's why we encourage you to start with the prototype, okay? To build from the prototype, to accept that something might not work, and to be able to adjust, okay? This process in any project, always be someone who is very open-minded, and know that sometimes you'll have to go back, but going back does not mean failure, okay? In fact, even when you get negative feedback, you as a project manager, you as a project officer, take it positively, because that's actually people being real with you. They have decided to become vulnerable with you. They have decided to tell you the honest truth. And they're not doing it to make you start again from scratch. They're doing it because now they know you can be someone who can impact and make a change in them. So remember to always take these feedback sessions with an open mind, and just be someone who is able to want to be flexible, okay? So it says, share with diverse users. Share with a diverse group of users. Capture a variety reactions from extreme users. So when we do this ideation process, we pick a group of people from the community who we feel will be impacted directly. But when we are prototyping, now you can deal with a larger number of people. Do not constrain yourself. I'll give you an example of a project we did on education. Now, with the education project, we were interviewing teachers. During the research process, we interviewed teachers and we interviewed parents. And we interviewed the head teacher. But when it came to the prototyping process, the end user of the product was the child. So during the prototyping process, we brought in children and we would take feedback from children. through observation and also through the comments they made. A child would look at the document that we had and say, I like these colors, I like these cartoons, you know, and that's feedback that we take very seriously, because at the end of the day, in as much as the teacher will be the one using the book, the child will be the person directly impacted by the story. And so remember to take variety reactions, okay, from a variety of people, within the community where you're carrying out the project. Now, it is important that you document, and that's why I told you, when I send you that prototyping document, it's a feedback form where you either fill it yourself during one-on-one interviews. You also can fill it yourself during focus group discussion interviews, or you can give the community to fill in for you. Okay, but if you're dealing with a child, remember, it's better for you to fill it for them. Just observe what they're telling you, and be very patient. Some of these groups are vulnerable groups. They need you to be very patient with them. Some of the members of the community you'll be dealing with might not be very literate. And so they can read, but they cannot write. And so if you go to a community where people can read but cannot write, you don't expect to give them this feedback document and want them to write. So most of them will tell you, I can tell you what I saw, and you can write it for them. So be very keen and also be very empathetic, okay? Don't force people to do things they cannot do, and be very patient, and also know how to manage the crowd that you have. The words you use will be very keen. Be very honest when you're going through prototyping process. If you know it will take 1 hour, tell the people in advance, today I need you guys for 1 hour. When you see time is running out and you've not gotten the feedback you wanted, remember to engage the users and tell them, I might take half an hour more of your time. Remember, the communities you're working with are people who live on the day-to-day jobs that they have. So when you're keeping them somewhere for 1 hour, you need to have told them in advance, okay? You don't just say, decide today I'm going to do prototyping and you have not informed the community in advance. So there are things you have to remember to prepare yourself before you get to the actual ground, or else you will go the same day, ask people within the community to come and try out products or services you have, and no one might show up. So remember, as a project manager, we plan ahead of time. As a project officer, because now as I speak to you, I see you guys as proper human-centered design officers. You're what we call the project managers. And as a project manager, you have to be smart, think smart at all times, you know, and know the steps of your project during HCD design, and know what each step requires of you. So if it is prototyping, you have to tell the people within the community in advance. Tell them how much time you feel it will spend. Sometimes we try to avoid not to be very specific. So you will see most of the consent forms within ThinkPlace, what we use, we say 1 to 2 hours, because you could go to the ground and you're expecting 10 people, but 3 people show up on time. And you see, if you limit yourself to 1 hour and the other 7 people show up half an hour later, they might not have enough time to engage with the product or service you have. And so when you give yourself a leeway to say 1 to 2 hours, it gives you that ability to be able to play around with that time as we are waiting. And that's why even every time we are starting a session here, you'll hear we'll tell you that the session could end by midday, the session could end at 1. But we normally give you guys a leeway we ask, can we let people join this session? Okay. So even as a proper project manager, remember, most of these communities you're dealing with are vulnerable communities. You keep them somewhere for 1 hour, they would have been getting money that they can be able to feed their families with within that 1 hour. So you need to be very honest, and you need to keep time, and you need to be very empathetic about the situations of the people and the groups that you're dealing with. Yes. So implementation. In this phase, the focus is to bring the solution to life and market it by building partnerships, refining the concept, and testing it out. So implementation simply means you have the final one. You know how that vending machine should look like. So it's a no-brainer. All you need to do is now bring that person who has that expertise to build exactly what you want. And then now you take it to the community. So as you're winding up to come through the implementation phase, your time with the community is also becoming thinner and thinner, meaning you will not see them as often. Once you take the gadget, you now start preparing for what is called monitoring and evaluation. And the monitoring and evaluation that comes after the implementation of a project, of a product, of a service, you don't see yourself engaging with the community as much. So during this implementation phase, you're now using the voice of expertise. Who do I need to make this product or service come to life? Okay. And so live prototyping. A live prototype is a chance to run a solution for a couple of weeks out in the real world. Determine what you want to test during the live prototype. This could be how a service works, the way we've discussed. Plan the logistics, as I've told you. Remember to always plan ahead. So it says, once you've decided what you're testing, sort out the logistics. Meaning the space, the permits you need, because like I told you, if you're going to be working with schools, for example, remember the chief within the area must know you're on the ground. If it's something that's dealing directly with medical or health, remember MOH, which is the Ministry of Health, should have an idea that there is this project that's running, so that when a person from the ministry finds you inside a clinic that is within an area where you live, and they find you taking data of people, they will not arrest you. Okay, Herenaina, I've seen. So planning and logistics is based on you being able to be aware who must know where I am, what do I need, what am I allowed to wear, because like if you're going to be in a facility, you could be needed to be wearing a lab coat, like
yes,
the lab. Oh, sorry. Okay, so you cannot be in a health facility and you are not dressed like a health facility person. You may not have the expertise You may be there to observe because the nurse is the one carrying out the interview or carrying out the procedure on the patient, but you have to dress like them. So that's what we mean by uniforms. Permits, ensure you get the correct permits to be where you are. Someone please mute Enoch. Or Enoch, please mute yourself. Okay. Okay. So, as I've told you, just a minute. Now, after the planning and logistics, it says test multiple ideas. If you have the capacity, think about running a few live prototypes. This will allow you to test a variety of ideas and see how they work together. Then keep iterating. Never stop iterating. If something went wrong on day one, try a new approach on day two, just as I've told you. Live prototypes are all about learning quickly, iterating the fly, and pushing the solution closer to the real thing. So the more the prototypes, the better for you. I would not tell you to narrow down. People give many ideas when they are during an ideation workshop. If your project has the capacity in terms of time, okay? If your project is running for a long period of time, you can test up to 10 prototypes. But remember, you're working against time and you're also working to profit the project, okay? You're working to show that I was given these resources to manage. I have worked within these resources. At Think Place, we always try not to go on an overrun within our projects. And I'll explain to you, an overrun is when you finish the financial budget that you have been given by a donor, okay? Now, once your project goes on what is called an overrun, it means that now you have finished the money that the donor gave you, you have finished the reserve, and now you're using the company's reserve to sustain your project, which we discourage. So remember, even as you're saying, let me test 10 prototypes, do you have the money? And do you have the capacity? And do you have the time? Okay. And capacity can be in terms of resources. It can be in terms of people with the expertise you need to roll out those prototypes. So be very, as a project manager, think ahead of the game. If you can do 5 out of the 10 prototypes, good. You have still given the community a variety, okay? If you can do all the 10 prototypes, also good for you. Okay. So then we have the roadmap. So as I've been telling you from the time we've been speaking, you'll need a timeline and a plan of action to get your idea out to the world. A roadmap can help you on time and on target. Number one, assemble your design team. So just as I've told you, know who you need, okay? Know who you need at what time and in what way. Number two, schedule. Print out a big calendar for the next year and use it to map out what needs to happen when. This always helps us because we normally, and I don't know if you guys have ever seen a Gantt chart. I'll try and send one to Lawrence. it helps us as project managers to know how far a project is, how many resources have we used, and we normally try to update our Gantt charts every week or every month. Because the moment you're updating, it's guiding you on how far have your resources been used. And the Gantt chart also always gives you an idea of what are the next steps, who do I need when. And so we create these Gantt charts from the time we know we have gotten a project. So long as we know how the project looks like, it helps us to know who we will need to come in when. And the Gantt chart also guides you in terms of budgets. So if you feel that your project requires more budget, like for example, you go into you're maybe at prototyping phase, or you're at ideation about to get into prototyping, and you see your money is running out, and it is not because you have not utilized the money you are given well. Say you have used the money you are given well, but you're getting to prototypes and you're seeing your finances are running out. You can reach out to the client or the donor who was funding you and explain the situation. Now, if you have the Gantt chart, it helps that donor or client to understand why the money has depleted, or why it has ended sooner. And that way, it gives the ability for this client or the donor to be able to see how they can assist you. Because remember, if you're implementing a project for a certain company, they also want to see the end results. So don't worry if you run out of money and it is not your fault. Keep constant communication with your client, because their end goal is also to see the impact of this project. So they will ask you, show us how the money we gave you have spent, what happened, explain yourself. But if you're the one who misused it by not properly knowing what you needed when or how, then that becomes another story. But if you genuinely use the funds well and are running out before completing the whole process, before completing the whole HCD process, before completing your project, the donor or the client will give you a leeway, because remember, they also want to see the project through to the end. Now it says, break it down. It's easy to get lost in all that needs to happen. So think about your calendar in chunks. Figure out what needs to occur in the next month. So as a project manager, most of our project managers are always aware of what is needed in the next 1 month. We don't start planning a week 2. By the time June is ending, in July, Sarah is the project manager of this project. She always knows by July the students will have graduated. So she didn't know now. She knew by May that around July we'll be finished with our classes. And we had sat down and we had discussed, and we knew by around June, July, the classes would be over. So we always know ahead of, and as a good project manager, you need to do the same, okay? Then it says milestones. Think about the major milestones in your project. When you need to start manufacturing, when you need to launch your website and get them on the calendar. So in as much as we were preparing to manufacture or to produce a vending machine, we knew that the vending machine had to be ready by a certain time. a good project manager, you time yourself. Otherwise, you will find that you're doing something you could have done in 1 day, in 1 month, just because you didn't plan and time yourself properly. Know when you want to celebrate your milestones. After you do research, that's a milestone gained. Okay? When you know the problem, that's a milestone gained. After an ideation workshop, that's a milestone gained. After prototyping, that's a huge milestone gained. When you're doing the actual implementation of the final product, that is a milestone gained. So remember to keep ticking against every milestone you have been able to do to completion. Any part of the project you do to completion, mark it as a milestone done and celebrate yourself, okay? Assign roles. So remember, no man is an island and you cannot manage to pull off something that is meant to affect 10,000 people, 500 people, 100 people, and pull it out by yourself. Assign roles, have a team. As a project manager, some things could accidentally bypass you. And I don't encourage you to now overlook your schedules. Some things might accidentally bypass you, but if you work as a team, it's the team players who are working with you will always remind you. There'll always be a person who will remember, Jacinta, this week, you're supposed to be prototyping, you see? Or there'll always be a person who will remind you, this should be happening at this time. Now, as a team within Think Place, we have these weekly meetings, and the weekly meetings always get to update us on which project is happening, how far are these projects, where are they, when do they look likely to end. And those meetings have always helped us to keep on our toes. So as a project manager, get a team that will help you, okay? And that team will always have a plan of when you can meet, so that you can always be up to date on your schedules and what is expected of you to happen when. So we're coming to the end. You've implemented, you have your product and service. Now you need to plan on the monitoring and evaluation aspect of it. So monitoring and evaluation is done after you have the service or the product, the final one, made, and it has been rolled out. So we get to come every now and then to just look, is this service working? Like, for example, when we were working within facilities, we had the ability to be able to go and check whether the tent was still being placed where it was supposed to be. Are the men still coming to get the medical checkups? If not, try and understand what are we doing wrong? What do we need to correct? And that's why you keep seeing within those slides I've shown you, iterating goes on, meaning you will always get feedback, things you need to correct, and you have to correct them for you to foresee this solution to help this group of people. Okay, Kamara, I've seen your message. Okay. And so, as I was saying, monitoring and evaluation, listen keenly, it is not an everyday affair. What do I mean? If you want to see progress, you cannot go for monitoring Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. No, you want to see progress. Give the solution time to be absorbed by the people by the users, by those whom you want to feel the impact. So we give people time, and time could mean even 3 months. Even sometimes you can give them up to, I think, okay, when you're beginning, I'd say you can say if your project is running for 4 years, or if your project is running for a year, and you want to monitor and evaluate progress, you can go in the first month when you implemented, you go end of that month. And after end of that month, they should again see you after at least 3 months. Because remember, they are also trying to understand, how did Jacinta tell us this was supposed to work? Which button should I press? You know, you want to see how many people will really come and drink this porridge. And you can't expect that such an impact can be measured in every 1 week, every 2 weeks. You know, you can give them at least every end month, you go and be checking. And after end month, you give them again at least every 3 months. That's when you go and you try and check, how are they doing? How are they using this product? What is happening? Who has been impacted? Who else was supposed to be using these services that I didn't capture? Did I miss out on some officials who are meant to be in this project? How can I correct that mistake? Monitoring and evaluation showcases to you the impact to the user, the impact to that community whom you are working with. It's very key. Now, as a consultant, as I work for ThinkPlace, we call our monitoring and evaluation is called hand-holding. Now, we call it hand-holding because we are not the direct implementers of the project. We are subcontracted. What do I mean? For example, we are having funding that's coming from, say, let me say UN. I'm sure you all know UN. So YMCA becomes the partner hired by UN. And so YMCA brings ThinkPlace on board to assist with the design and the research process. So we handhold YMCA, but YMCA becomes the organization that does the monitoring and evaluation part. So we showcase to YMCA how the monitoring and evaluation will look like, but you will find that ThinkPlace will not be the direct organization that does the M&D. But we showcase and we guide YMCA on how the M&D will look like. Now for you guys are the direct implementers. So me, I will do what is called hand-holding. I am showcasing to you what monitoring and evaluation should look like. But you are the direct implementer. So you're the one who will go to the ground to monitor and evaluate your project. Okay? I hope you've understood the difference. So in different organizations, you will find that your role in M&E will be different. It won't be constant. It depends on whether you are the direct implementer or the subcontractor. But I know you'll understand this in details as you plan on rolling out your projects. Now, under monitoring and evaluation, your goal has always been to have a big impact. Design the ways that you measure and grow into your solutions. The first thing you'll want to determine is why you need to monitor and evaluate your work. Is it to demonstrate impact? Is it to get more funding? Is it to improve business practices? to generate more revenue. So as you're seated, you need to ask yourself, what is the main end game of my project? Am I doing this project so that I can be funded more money? Am I doing this project so that I can have an impact and have more people taking up a service or a product? Okay. Be sure to bring key partners and stakeholders into this conversation. They may be monitoring and evaluation your topic areas for years and can provide key insights. So it normally depends. Sometimes you have projects that run for 5 years. Sometimes you'll be in a project that runs for as short as 6 months. All projects go through an M&D process because the most people, once they do a project, they want to understand, what did we gain from doing this? You know, it could be lessons learned. That's still an impact. That's still monitoring and evaluation. And that's still something that you want to see, you want to gain, you know, how many people have come on board since we made this product. And for Think Place, because what we help to come up with is the design, and we are the HCD designers. And so are you right now, all of you. So our main aim in this game is to know who has chosen to use this product and service. And if not, where did we go wrong and how can we improve on it? Assess whether your team is best suited to monitor and evaluate. Sometimes you could be within a project and you don't have the expertise. And that's why I keep asking you guys to know that schedule your plan, have a planner, so that when you know we are nearing monitoring and evaluation, you don't start getting anxiety at that point because you don't have such a person with that expertise. But if you plan ahead of time, it always gets easier for you to be able to have someone who you can hire as a consultant to come in and do this part of the work for you. And by the time you're even bringing them on board, you would have evaluated a number of people to see who do you need, who best suits to help you evaluate your project, who best suits to help you see impact. Okay. A common method of assessing impact is a randomized controlled trial. They are highly rigorous, but they're also very expensive and can take years. You'll also be limited in iterating on your solution during the randomized controlled trial because it may disrupt the test. So an RCT is it's something you use. You see, okay, let me see. When we go to the field, sometimes when our prototype can be like an SMS. I'll give you an example of a project we are doing called Jacaranda Health, with Jacaranda Health. Now, we are sending out SMSs to mothers and fathers, and the SMSs are on ANC, that's antenatal care, postnatal care, and on family planning. Now, we are SMSing 400 individuals, 200 fathers, 200 mothers. Among the 200 mothers, they'll be split again into two groups. 100 mothers will be youth, and 100 will not be as young. This is an example I'm giving you, so you can understand what RCT means. Now, the voice, even as you're sending an SMS, there's a tone you use during the SMSs. So the tone being used in sending these SMSs will be different. The reason I tell you we can't iterate is because we want to test whoever receives tone A, what is their response? And whoever receives tone B, what is their response? And you cannot find us interchanging them. Like the person in tone A will not come to tone B, and the person in tone B will not come to tone A. Okay, so RCT, it's very costly, yes, and you cannot disrupt the process. You cannot find yourself interchanging some of these things. So when you choose something like RCT, be very careful, okay? Be very careful of what you intend to, what are you intending to find? Because it limits you on how you can keep changing things. Or by the time you're even allowed to make changes, you will have to wait for a while. You'll have to wait for a really long time. Like us now, we have to send the SMSs out for quite some time before we come in and start saying, give us feedback. We need to see how these SMSs will impact these people. And it takes a really long time. So be very careful on the method you choose during assessment. RCT is a very tricky method. Now try to balance between quantitative and qualitative. A mix of stories and data can be very powerful. Okay? In as much as you're looking for the numbers, try and get impact from the people. What stories do they have to share? What did they learn from this process? Get a story. Try and get what are known as the success stories from every project you carry out. Don't just get, oh, we were able to get 1,600 more people to gain from this process. Who can give you a story that will showcase the same? Take a prototyping aptitude test to your measurement. You can always tweak your business model based on the information coming in to maximize your impact. So generally, M&D is a very key, important process. Beyond, please mute yourself. Thank you. M&D is a very important process. It helps you get feedback. It helps you see the outcomes. It helps you get the indicators. It helps you get the stories. And that's what's very key when it comes to M&D. And this is the end. So I hope that you have learned something today. I hope that not just today, I hope that you've learned something throughout this process. I'll tell you something. The first time I heard about HCD, human-centered design, I was questioning, what is this? How is it different from running any other project? But the more I got to learn about it, the more I got to practice it, the easier it became for me to want to do more and more things using HCD. Most of the projects I carried out before learning on HCD they were running as normal projects. There was no design aspect. Yes, we were getting impact, but it was different. When I got to learn about design and the HCD aspect, the impact was even more because I was working with the user and for the user. Okay? I was not working as an individual. It was not my voice that was heard, but it was both my voice and the voice of the user. And this made it easier for me to see more impact within the communities. I know right now it might still sound gray, some of the terms we have used, some of the examples you've seen us explain, but each time you keep practicing something, it always gets easier for you to be able to understand. And I just want to say I'm happy that I got to facilitate with you guys. I'm happy that I got to be able to teach you something. Well, Sarah was also very happy. She would have wanted to join us today. But she was unable to because she was not very well. But all in all, we keep every time you see us present something to you, it takes so much time for us to be able to get those PowerPoints together. It takes a lot of time for us to practice on how we are going to do, how we are going to play these sessions out. And so key for us is to just ensure that you understand the process. And that's why we know you can't learn it in a day. You know, they have a keen way of saying Rome was not built in a day, which is true. You can't learn something in a day very fast. But I know that with time, you will. And that's why we give you the leeway to always reach out to us on WhatsApp, reach out to us on email. Feel free to engage with us. We've learned the process, but it also took us time. And we want you guys to be able to enjoy the process as much as we do. I cannot see Lawrence around today, so I think we are on our own. I just like to say thank you. If anybody has a question, because I had seen one question, just make sure that I answer it. How do you, okay, it says, how do you know if you scrap the idea or change it holistically? So Fionn, I don't know if you're still here, but as a project manager, you can't change the idea individually. You can only change the idea because the community has asked you to change it. And you know that the idea needs to change because the community is not embracing the solution that you have come up with. And so they generally are the ones who have the say on what can be changed and what should remain the same. So listen to the community. The community will always tell you the answers that you need at every single time and at every single stage. So I don't know if anyone has a question. If not, typing my number on the group chat. And you can reach out to me. If you want Sarah's number, you can also reach out to me and I will be able to give you Sarah's number. I'm also typing my email address. And you can also write me an email. If you want Sarah's email address, please reach out to me and I'll also be able to give it to you. I'll also be able to give you the lessons that we have done. I'll also be able to take you through whether you're stuck somewhere within your project. I'll be able to assist you. And I hope that we can keep tabs. Samuel, your hand is up. Yes, please unmute yourself.
So I want to say thank you for the session and thank you for the session that you have been.
Okay.
And give you the strength to continue to watch teaching and have the passion in building young people's minds. My question
thank you.
goes, yeah, my question is, in the prototypes, you taught us about two. So I want to ask a question. Apart of those two, are there any other type of prototyping apart of
Or
the two?
apart from the two examples I gave you?
Yes.
Yeah. So I have been working with ThinkPlace. This is my second year. But they have done very many projects. ThinkPlace, I can even send you the link to our website. Most of the projects we do are pinned on our website. Just let me look for that. Give me 1 minute. Let me send you. I want you to get a chance, go through our website, look at it. You will see we have done so many projects that have impacted people in different ways. I want you to go and try and look into the website, and you'll be able to see the prototypes that have been done, the impact that it has made. And even every so often, feel free to contact me. If you see a project somewhere done by ThinkPlace and you want to ask any question regarding the project, you can always reach out and I'll assist you. All our projects are not just education based, they are not just SRH. We do a lot of projects, even those that don't, even banking projects, even I can say there's education, there's banking, there's capacity building. Like what I'm doing with you right now, this is a project. You see, this is a project, this capacity building. And so ThinkPlace does a lot of projects and we have a lot of prototyping. But like I told you, you see, like this, what we're doing right now, it's a capacity building project, but there's no prototyping involved, if you notice. And I remember I was keen to tell you that not every project will have certain stages on them. Some projects, like this, will be treated as the prototype that we made. And your feedback will give us the knowledge on what we can change with the next class that we deal with. You understand? And that feedback becomes the iteration that we will use, so that when the next class comes on board, we'll know this is what we should correct. But Samuel, you can reach out and I'll be able to take you further through the prototyping process, and I'll be able to assist you in case you're stuck at any particular place in your project, and we can pick it from there.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I wanted to give Herenaina a chance to speak because we don't have Lawrence. Before I close, I don't know if Herenaina, you have anything you want to tell us?
Can you hear me, Jacinta?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I was in a translation mode for the thing. So Jacinta, thank you so much. I think Lawrence told me he has a problem of electricity there in Liberia. But
Okay.
me, I would like honestly thank you for this very open-minded and fruitful session since, and we hope to see you around. And thank you so much. Please say thanks to Sandra on our behalf. Yeah. Thank you so much.
I'd also like to say thank you, Herenaina, for being patient with us, for translating to the French speakers. I've been so grateful to have you on the platform. And despite the hitches, I'm happy to know if you would like us to have a chat, just to know whether there were things that maybe they were hard for them to understand. See what we can do in terms of notes to send to them so that they can be on the same page with the rest of the classes. I'd be happy to do something with you. To the students, I say thank you for always joining and being keen. Remember, project managers are very confident people. Sometimes I call out on you guys and you're so quiet. And I'm wondering, how will you then go out there and do your projects? You know, a project manager has to be very confident, you know, with what you're doing and be able to express yourself, you know, and be able to impact people. For you to impact people, they need to have confidence in what you're saying. So don't feel that when we tell you to answer something, open your microphone and say something, don't feel like we are picking out on you. Just remember, we want the best for you. And as you graduate, I wish you guys all the best, and I hope to hear from your projects. Yeah, that's it from me. I guess we can log out, or if anybody wants to say anything, they can unmute and say now before we leave. Or you can unmute and say bye.
Hi, Jacinta, thank you very much for all the information you've given to us. We really appreciate it, and we are going to reach out to you whenever we start somewhere. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Nice weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Au revoir.
Okay, bye.
In one